Is it you or me?
It's you.
Woo! What is good, defenders? And welcome to episode 323. Shout out to everybody in the 323 area code on this one, because many of you are listening to us from there. It's Defenders of the Bank, the LAFC podcast that your mother warned you about. That's right. And we are discussing the massive win in a tree, in a forest, in a field, somewhere where there was a train. There was all kinds of stuff happening in this match, but we are going to the US Open Cup Finals for the first time. You know my voice. It's the Scarf. J.R. Liebert coming to you from, here. But across the interwebs from me, I believe today he would prefer to be known as Hop Along Philly from world famous Philomonster Studios. I give you America.
America, that's how you can introduce me. Such an anticlimactic introduction for what I like to refer to myself as my alter ego, Hop Along Philly. Why am I referring to myself as Hop Along Philly? Because we are hopping along into the US Open Cup Finals, baby. Yet again, LAFC is going to compete in a final. And for you spoiled, entitled, unknowledgeable, dim-witted fans, yes, it is much better to play in a final than to get knocked out early or to not play in a final. And we have a lot of things to be happy about and jovial about. This is good times. While we haven't competed in that final yet, because September 25th is when this U.S. Open Cup final is going to be played, you got to enjoy the journey. The destination is amazing, but the journey to the destination is just as good. And as I said to LAFC Wolf just yesterday at the Golden Road Brewery, where we celebrated a phenomenal LAFC win, you got to enjoy the journey, because you know what? The destination is what it is, but the journey along the way is equally as amazing.
Philly, this was quite the journey to Tukwila, Starfire Sports Complex. Some giant trees in the background behind Hugo Lloris, a train in the 89th minute, maybe the worst pitch of any field that LAFC has played on in our short history. I never thought I would long for the days of playing at Cashman Field, Philly, but that's what this made me think of. I mean, it was brutal, but the most important thing, Philly, is that the soccer gods were smiling upon LAFC in that one. Yesterday felt like a match that could have very easily gone either way. And I'll say it off the jump, and we'll talk about it when we get to the recap. I don't know how you feel, because you and I actually haven't talked about this one yet, but I'll take a soft penalty call for our only goal if that's what gets us to the U.S. Open Cup final. They also never showed the better view of it initially hitting, was it Pedro de la Vega first, and then off of the other defender?
Rolled on. It hit off of de la Vega and rolled on.
A little bit of a soft call. LAFC having trouble all day, really able to getting anything forward, but an incredible result. The journey was great. The destination even better. And I cannot wait to host the U.S. Open Cup final. Y'all know it's Scarf talking here. This is my favorite tournament, the 109th edition. I mean, it's pretty cool, Philly, to be in a tournament, in the finals of a tournament that was founded before the National Hockey League, before the NFL, before the NBA. They were playing the U.S. Open Cup. And for the first time, we are finalists.
Yeah, that's true. For the first time in this club's history, we are finalists, because the furthest we've ever gotten along, defenders, and this goes out to you newbies who claim to be lifelong LAFC supporters that showed up after 2020. Our club made it to the U.S. Open Cup semifinals in 2018 against the Houston Dynamo. Sadly, we lost in penalty kicks. A Herculean effort by our once favorite Uruguayan Diego Rossi. He had a hell of a game that propelled us into penalty kicks. There were bad PKs taken by Latif Blessing, Laurent Simon, that propelled Houston into that U.S. Open Cup final against the Philadelphia Union, a team that we all know very well and that we've owned very well. But that was history. It's awesome that we are in another final, our 7th one since 2018. And hopefully this is one that we could actually celebrate at the end of September as we end the summer and head into the fall. LAFC is going to compete for another trophy. And for those that fail to believe in what the front office does and what the current coaching staff does, it is awesome that we are competing in another final because it is better to be in the situation than to not be. Scarf, you and I were at lower.com field last year when we unfortunately lost to the Columbus Crew in the MLS Cup final in 2023. And I echo the words of one Giorgio Chiellini. He's 100% right. It is better to play for a final than to not play for a final. And I know there are a lot of fans out there that have jumped aboard this black and gold bandwagon recently. And I've seen people say, how hard is it to win a final? Well, morons, it is one of the hardest things to do in sports. And yet here we are again, competing for another trophy because it is exciting, it is fun. And whether you like it or not, we are far more successful than a lot of other clubs not named the Columbus Crew.
Philly is spicy today, y'all. He is.
I am spicy because I've been reading social media, and quite honestly, Scarf, I love our LAFC fam, but there's a lot of effing idiots in LAFC social media that say stuff that quite honestly disgust me and make my blood boil. It's not easy to be in the situation that LAFC is in, and maybe I'll play the role of the heel, Scarf. I will play the role of the heel. It is hard to compete for finals, but yet we are doing it consistently. And while I agree with many of you, it sucks to not win, we're at least in these situations. I know you're scratching your head.
I'm with you. I think sometimes you maybe got to pull yourself out of that rabbit hole a little bit. If you look for stuff, you'll certainly find it out there on LAFC Twitter. I'll tell everybody, it's never as bad as U.S. men's national team Twitter or recently L3 Twitter. That's been a whole nother ballgame. But look, it's natural for people to want to question some things after losing 4 straight finals. I hear it. I get it, right? But at the end of the day, you guys need to realize since 2018, LAFC has been looked at as a standard bearer in the league. I mean, yes, Columbus Crew has had some very recent success, and they are a very, very good club. I'll still say I believe they're the best in CONCACAF. Seattle Sounders started out with a lot of success when we first came into the league. I don't know that Seattle could say that they've been consistently doing it for 7 seasons. I don't know that Columbus can say that they've been consistently doing it for 7 seasons. But what I do know is that our first year we set the expansion points record. Yeah, it got broken. That's fine. That's what records are made to do. The next year we went out and won Supporters Shield. And all we've done since then is be consistently at the top. Sure, the COVID season in 2021 weren't great, but hell, we still did better than the Galaxy. Let's put it that way. And look, for the most part, here's the other thing. We put ourselves in position, yes, but also when our supporters buy a ticket, when our supporters sign up for season tickets, when our supporters go to support out on the road or at home, what they are watching is a club that is consistently both aspirational and successful by almost every metric you have. Yes, we've lost finals, and I absolutely, it boils my blood to see some of the stuff coming from Carson Twitter because now they have a new one. It's not Chivas 2.0 anymore. It's LAFC, stands for Los Angeles Finals Chokers, right? Like, look, and here's the deal. When you lose 4 straight finals, you got to let them talk their talk because all they can do from afar while they watch LAFC play in final after final is lob their little pebbles and sharpen their little sticks from down there in Carson, trying to still remain relevant while being nowhere near the top of the league's competitors. Yes, they're in the top of the West right now, and they've been a very, very good club this year. Peck, Pooch, Paintsel, now Royce, I mean, they're a very good club. That being said, welcome back to relevance. We've been here all along.
All right, they can say whatever they want to in regards of what the LAFC acronym might be in their perspective. But you know what LAG stands for, Scarf? Not Los Angeles Galaxy, Los Angeles Golfers. Because that's exactly what they're doing in the postseason, is they're playing golf, whether it be regular golf or foot golf. They haven't done a damn thing. And yes, while they might have Marco Royce, they may be very well excited. Marco Royce, to me, in my opinion, is a liability, an absolute liability. They might argue the fact that against Atlanta United, the guy had a goal and an assist. Quite honestly, the assist, BS. You and I could have had the assist. All the work was done by Ricky Pooch, which was an incredible goal. And Marco Royce's goal, that all is attributed to the pathetic defense of Atlanta United. Royce has a shot blocked by Guzan. You could have counted Mississippi's in terms of time, as far as how long it would have taken for Royce to get back to his shot to pass through Marco Royce. Whatever. Who cares? Now, I see in the chat, Lunch Special Geo, and this is the first time I believe I've seen this name in the chat. Lunch Special Geo says, we need to win this Open Cup final because we are not winning MLS Cup. Okay, I would love to know why you think that. Lunch Special Geo. What makes you think we are not winning MLS Cup? What makes you think that the Columbus Crew will not get upset in the Eastern Conference? As it stands, in all of professional sports in the United States, there are two seasons. A regular season, which belongs to Supporter Shield winners, which, by the way, we are very much involved in. And number two, playoffs, which we are still very much involved in. I've seen so much banter and chatter on social media, and it makes my head scratch. I hear things along the lines of LAFC needs to win the Open Cup to save the season. What are you talking about? We're 14-5-5. We haven't played a regular season game in a month. The first regular season game we're going to be playing in is this Saturday against the Houston Dynamo. Where do some of you people get the storylines, the rhetoric that you have? I don't believe in anything that the shit that I've seen on social media says. I know we're a family-friendly podcast. I am going to say sorry for that. But it angers me when I see supporters of the black and gold not believe in what this team is doing. In terms of the MLS regular season, we are still very much involved and very much dangerous to everybody else within not only the Western Conference, but in the Eastern Conference. And I will stop for a little while.
All right, so Philly is clearly a little spicy tonight, everybody. He's ready to roll. Let's talk about some happier things. Number one, don't forget, y'all, head on over to lafc.com/Mo-Facio to donate to the Mo Facio futsal court being built in Cudahy. The fundraising efforts are still underway, so let's make sure that happens. But let's also talk about a couple of rumors. And look, these are all rumors to begin with, and they were all rumors at the start. A couple of rumors that appear to be losing some steam on the internet. It appears potentially, and I would say all this is potentially, all this is all kinds of stuff. We'll see. But it appears the Kike Oliveira to Toluca move is potentially off. And it appears that the talks between Matty Bogusz and Celtic are potentially off. So I thought we were going to have to cope with losing one Philly, not both. Now it appears we might be able to keep them both, which really does create some problems on the offensive end for a lot of clubs in this league to have to try to defend all that speed, all that wiggle, all that sauce. So the nice part is it looks like for now, and again, the soccer gods were on our side in Tukwila, so I don't want to anger the soccer gods right now by saying deals might be off, just that everything we are hearing right now seems to indicate that we are going to be able to keep both Kike Oliveira and Matty Bogusz until the end of this season. I don't anticipate them here for much longer, but what we're hearing is that they're staying for now.
I mean, that's all right. I'm gonna pull it back. I know Scarf is sweating. I could see it right here, even through the lenses of these Panda sunglasses. I'll simmer down. I just had to vent a little bit. Now you're right. Celtic is not in the conversation with Matty Bogusz anymore, and obviously the whole conversation about Kike Oliveira, like you alluded to, isn't the same way that it was earlier. And you know what? That's actually a really good thing. Now we're not out of the we're not out of the storm yet. If we get to keep Matty and we get to keep Kike, it's what we've all wanted, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
Now we'll end up again with those champagne problems and caviar dreams. We will have the team that we need in place to compete for the MLS Cup, and now at this point, the US Open Cup, and still, by the way, for the Supporter Shield. While that might not mean that much to a lot of you, the MLS Cup does, and we're very much in contention for it. And if we can retain these players and win the trophies that we need to win, we can sell them off to wherever we want to sell them off to, because that'll only boost their value and obviously the credibility and the value of this club. So that puts us in a very good situation moving forward. We're already in September. I can't believe we're already in September. And the funny thing is, Scarf, that means we still have like 4 more months until the MLS is over, because this is the longest season for any professional sport. If you compare it to the NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever, Major League Soccer somehow goes from February to December. It's kind of wild in the grand scheme of things, but retaining the players that we have on our roster, playing the way that we've been playing, adding players of the like of an Olivier Giroud, we're in a very good situation to actually do some damage. At 14-5-5 going into this game Saturday against the Houston Dynamo, I don't think we've ever been in a situation more dominant than we are right now. We were never in the situation with Bob Bradley. Sure, 2019, that was an amazing year, but 2019 was a Western Conference loss to the Seattle Sounders. I don't remember a time where we've ever been this dominant, quite honestly.
No, and look, back to Lunch Special Geo is asking, the playoff upsets and things like that. It's already happened, right? We're used to it already at LAFC. We had it happen our first couple of years. We're used to upsets, but here's the thing now. Here's the position that I like that we're in, to Lunch Special Geo and everybody else. If we lose matches at any point for the rest of this season, maybe up until MLS Cup final, if we lose a match at any point from here on out, it will be exactly that, an upset. I think it's okay to say that LAFC is the top team in the West, or at least the class of the West with Carson right now, because Carson's 3 matches ahead of us. And they're only up by 5 points. So I'm not worried about Carson right now, but I see what I see with my eyes. Carson's a very good team. They have won games that they would have normally drawn, and they have drawn games that they would have normally lost this season. They have fought back from losing points and dropping points several times this season to retain points. And that's a club that you always have to be dangerous and leery of. But that being said, the nice part about the rest of this season is that it feels like if we lose any matches for the rest of this season, that they will be exactly that. They'll be upsets. All right, let's focus. Let's move on ahead. We're already 19 minutes into the podcast. Yes.
I just want to say one thing. Look, I respect everybody's opinion in the grand scheme of things. I legitimately do. Everybody has a legitimate argument throughout the season. I just don't like seeing the fact that people are already writing the season off as a loss. And I see that on social media, how people are claiming that, we need to do this in order to salvage the season. I don't understand where the rhetoric comes from that we need to salvage the season. We haven't had a season since July. It's been all Leagues Cup. And if a Leagues Cup would have really mattered to many of you, BMO would have been a far more packed than what it was. Regardless, we're not going to get into that argument. Leagues Cup is over. The MLS regular season is going. The US Open Cup is going, and we still have plenty to play for. I don't get why some people are already writing off the season. And at the same time, Scarf, I'm going to say this, and I might be a little spicy about this as well. The
Oh, boy.
people that demand the perfection of the LAFC, thinking that this is a team that could go undefeated over the course of a regular season and postseason play, these are people that really need to honestly look at themselves in the mirror and demand the same amount of perfection in their own lives. Because at the end of the day, if they demand the same perfection from others, they should demand the same perfection from themselves. And for those that demand that perfection, you would already be in the front office or already own the team, which would mean you would be able to dictate the direction of this club. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's move on.
All right. Quick news and notes segment. There's not a whole lot to talk about, but we do want to mention that the 11th annual Kick Childhood Cancer campaign begins September 1st. We will no doubt have more details on ways to raise funds and hopefully make an impact there over the course of the month. And something that's pretty cool, you guys. We want to make sure that as many of the Defenders Nation hears about this as possible. After the Houston Dynamo match, please stick around. Stay in your seats because there is another match happening. Yes, at like 10 o'clock, there is another match happening. The LAFC unified team is taking on Houston Dynamo's unified team right after the match. If you don't know what the LAFC unified team is, it is an incredible endeavor by LAFC and several other clubs in MLS to bring people with various disabilities and special needs together to be able to play on the pitch at BMO for LAFC. They represent our club. They are a part of our club. They are an extension of our club just in the same way that LAFC 2 is, that the Academy is, that everything else is. So it would be really cool if as many of you guys as possible, I love you, Gio. That's a funny comment. It would be great for as many of you as possible to stick around after LAFC takes on Houston, to stick around to see the unified team play against Houston's unified team. So let's see if we can do that. LAFC 2 plays on August 30th against Tacoma Defiance at Titan Stadium. So on Friday night, if you guys aren't doing anything, head on out to Titan Stadium. Make sure you check out LAFC 2, Luis Muller, and everybody else out there who we love so much. And as a reminder for all your ACFC needs, be sure to listen to the Angel City Chicks and to follow at Angel City Chicks on all your social media platforms.
You're forgetting another podcast, Scarf.
Oh, which one would you like to plug, sir?
Oh, the one called Soccer in 60, which is an ABC radio affiliate featured on AM FM radio in the Inland Empire. Yours truly is a co-host of that show, along with Tim Kolatz, Nina Kiefer, and Amanda the Panda Filliman. We talk about all things SoCal, Los Angeles-based soccer. So tune into that. You can follow it on the Empire Strikers social media. I had to plug that in, Scarf. I get paid to do it, so I have to.
You had our good buddy Scott French on this last episode.
Look at you paying attention. I love that.
Scott does a wonderful job writing for a great number of outlets over the last, 4 decades or so that he's been doing it. So pretty cool to have Scott French on there. Philly, it's the 109th edition of my favorite soccer tournament, and I'm surprisingly not as old as the U.S. Open Cup has been going on, but I feel
lies. Total lies.
I feel it. But this is my favorite soccer tournament in the United States. I like it more than Leagues Cup. I like it more than that Campeones Cup one-off. I like it more than any of the other things that we will play in, other than obviously the MLS Cup. I like that one quite a bit. But Philly, we had some questions going into this match. Can LAFC rebound from losing Leagues Cup? What about the roster issues with Jesus Murillo, Edward Atuesta, and Olivier Giroud all not being available? What about Eddie Segura? How would he look as part of the back three? What about Matty Bogusz being on the bench? And what about having to play in someone's backyard on a five-a-side pitch? We had things that we had to worry about coming into this match, Philly. And the nice part is, it's safe to say, and I'll say it again, with a little bit of help from the soccer gods, LAFC was able to pass this test with at least flying black and gold colors.
All good questions, all good worries that you had. And there's some questions that resulted that were along the lines of, why did we play in Starfire Stadium in Tukwila, Washington? Well, the simple answer is as follows. Metallica is in town to play Lumen Field. And I don't care how much you love Major League Soccer or the Seattle Sounders or LAFC or the sport in general, Metallica is going to put far more cheeks in seats than the U.S. Open Cup will. Scarf, I love how much you love the U.S. Open Cup. And while I am somewhat behind you in terms of the love for it, Metallica is more popular than anything that you would just mention, which is exactly why we had to compete at Starfire Stadium in front of a capacity crowd of 4,500. I'll tell you, from being a spectator watching this at Golden Road Brewery, by the way, shout out to Golden Road Brewery over in the Glendale Atwater area. They held a phenomenal watch party. The grass, the turf, the synthetic turf that it was there made the game hard to watch optically. I don't know what it was from your perspective, Scarf, but it wasn't great in terms of the optics. And by what you saw with LAFC between some of the careless passes, it wasn't great in terms of the game either, which come halftime, that was actually kind of surprising that LAFC had far better passing accuracy than the Seattle Sounders did. All things considered, that the Sounders have practiced on that kind of synthetic turf far more than we have.
Look, it was rough to watch, not just because of the quality of the pitch, but because it was played in a backyard. The camera could only get so high, so you were really watching some quick pans. It was a lot. It took me in my news and notes. My notes on the match. It took me until the 5th minute to feel nauseated. So it took about 5 minutes until I was really tired of the camera going this way, then that way, and then this way, and then back a little bit. It was rough. That's for sure. It was definitely rough. But that being said, you know what, Philly? The pitch was 5 yards narrower. It was 6 yards shorter than Lumen. Giant trees in the background. But we got a fun match that we get to talk about because, look, we need to be a little happier on this podcast, folks, because, you know, we are going to the finals of my favorite tournament, the U.S. Open Cup. And because the soccer gods like me a little bit, we scored in the Scarf minute, in the 83rd minute. I mean, we got so many fun things to talk about. The soccer god said, all right, we'll throw Scarf a bone on this one. We know he likes the U.S. Open Cup. We know he loves LAFC. We're gonna help the universe coalesce for this moment so that we can bring the U.S. Open Cup to BMO Stadium. We helped Sporting Kansas City go to the CONCACAF Champions Cup, people. Sporting Kansas City. We did that. We did that. If Seattle is in that match, then it's not.
Lunch special, Gio, you got me laughing. I love you, buddy.
Oh,
that
dude,
was good.
I can't wait to get rid of this COVID cough. Still, it's been 3.5 weeks. We are not, Seattle's not going, or excuse me, Sporting Kansas City is not going to the U.S. Open Cup if Seattle is in that final. We helped good old Peter Vermees get to the CONCACAF Champions Cup and saved his butt. Philly, what do you think? Should we get into the lineups? Everybody knows Seattle. Everybody knows how we got there. Everybody knows both of the teams beat 3 USL teams to get there. That's it.
Yeah, we know Seattle really well. This will be the 4th time that we'll be competing against them this season. I see a lot of the banter also on social media that Seattle Sounders fans feel robbed. I don't know why you feel robbed, y'all. We've absolutely destroyed you all season long. 3-0-0 coming into this game with a scoring line of 8-1. And then obviously a handball in the box, which we'll allude to. I don't know why Seattle Sounders fans feel like they've been robbed against LAFC over this entire season. Because quite honestly, I would hate to say that we've been your daddy for a very, very significant period of time. And you were talking about, let's make this pod jovial. I don't know where I made this pod not necessarily jovial. I just wanted to address things that I thought were moronic and idiotic. I'm in a good mood. Why? Because we're in another final and because we're playing in another game. Finally, regular season is starting to happen again on Saturday. Scarf is taking a drink out of something that I have no idea what it is. I don't remember the last time I've seen the Scarf drink on a podcast. I know I'm drinking on this podcast, but the Seattle Sounders, a very familiar team, although the shocking starter would be Nata Thomas. No Stephen Fry. Seattle's starting keeper is a player that featured significant minutes for the USL's Tacoma Defiance and in limited time for the Seattle Sounders. I don't understand why between the two teams that we've competed against, not Nashville, what am I talking about? Columbus and Seattle, we've gone up against backup keepers. That's been surprising to me, considering how successful LAFC is in scoring goals.
Well, what was the score of the last two times we played with Stefan Fry back there? That would be 3-0 and 3-0. I think they were just trying to mix up the juju a little bit, to maybe switch up the mojo. I mean, look, Andrew Thomas, he didn't do a whole lot wrong in this match at all. Hell, he even guessed right on the PK. There wasn't a lot that you can complain about Andrew Thomas for. And, oh, by the way, I know Stefan Fry has been very, very good, and I'm not trying to show him the door or anything. But Stefan Fry is getting a little long in the tooth. Now, the shelf life for keepers in MLS is much longer than, say, the shelf life for several other positions. But I think Seattle is trying to see what they have. And plus, that's their cup keeper. We know a lot of clubs have a cup keeper, so that when it's maybe Leagues Cup or when it's Open Cup, especially in the early rounds of these things, they let some of their other keepers get a try there. So either... Oh, Ben, I love you so much. Either way, Philly, you're absolutely right. 7-0-2 against Seattle in our last 9 coming into this. And I have to say, though, and we can talk about this more when we get to the penalty, I understand why the Sounders fans feel robbed in this match. This match, I firmly believe the soccer gods were on our side. I've said it 3 times now, and if I say it a fourth, Beetlejuice will appear. So I have to be very careful. Shall we get into the lineups, Philly?
I agree, but unlike you, I don't feel any sympathy for the Seattle Sounder fans. In fact, I hope they wither and die in misery. I don't like Seattle. After the LA Galaxy or the Carson Galaxy, the next team that I dislike more, well, not dislike more, but dislike is the Seattle Sounders. I don't feel any sympathy towards them. I'm glad we won. I'm glad we sent them back to their hellhole that is in the Pacific Northwest. To hell with the Seattle Sounders. Yes, let's go into the lineup.
I didn't say I felt bad for him. I just said I saw where they were coming from.
Screw Seattle, Scarf, and after them, screw Portland.
You are old man. Get off my lawn today. Head
Good.
coach.
The people
Brian
have wanted
Schmetzer.
salty Philly, and here I am.
Head coach Brian Schmetzer. We know Brian Schmetzer. He said before the match in an interview on Apple TV that they were
He
going
said,
to
I've had enough. I hate this city. I hate this team. I want to wither and die because Steve Cherundolo's a better coach than I am. That's what he said, Scarf. All right, I'm really done. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Is Dexter putting you up to this stuff? I know he's there right now.
No. Kirkland Reposado has put me up to this.
Oh my goodness. All right. Now we know. Look, Brian Schmetzer said that he was going to try a few new defensive tactics. They were going to be playing more direct offensively. And for the most part, they did. Sure. They came out in their 4-2-3-1 with Andrew Thomas, as you mentioned, instead of Stefan Fry in goal. And that was really the only change from things that we have come to expect from them all season. Nuhu, Yamar, all 6'6" of Jackson Reagan, and defender Alex Roldan. That was their back line of 4, Joao Paulo, and the teenager Obed Vargas in the midfield. My least favorite player in Major League Soccer, Paul Rothrock, out there along with Albert Rusnak, Christian Roldan, and Jordan Morris. Thank you, Amanda, for letting us all know why. Apparently, Smokehouse Martinis are responsible for this Philly right now. So there we go. And in the 18, after we saw Rothrock, Rusnak, Roldan, and Jordan Morris, the players who would see the pitch are Raul Ruidiaz, Pedro de la Vega, and a player who actually signed his first team contract that day. He had come up for a couple of call-ups earlier in his career, but Georgie Manungu would come on for the officially the first time as a first team contracted member of the Seattle Sounders. We would not see a couple of players that we might have thought we might seen. Josh Atencio, Reed Baker-Whiting, and Leo Chu didn't even make the 18 on this one, which was a little bit of a surprise and something maybe rotten in the state of Denmark over there with Leo Chu, because he might be on his way out the way we thought that either Kike or Maddie might be, but it doesn't seem to be the case now. Philly, we would make a ton of changes in our lineup from our last match.
We would still continue to start within that 3-4-3 scenario. Hugo Lloris would start in between the pipes. And I know there are a lot of people that hated on him after the Leagues Cup final, but I would dare you to really tell me why there is any other LAFC keeper that we've ever had that is better than Hugo Lloris. If you think that a World Cup winner is not good, I would open up the dialogue to hear exactly why you don't think he's good. Regardless, he started it between the sticks. We would have Aaron Long, Chris Lafferty's favorite player, Maxime Chanot, and Eddie Segura operating in the defensive position. Omar Campos, Timothy Tillman, Lewis O'Brien, Sergi Palencia operating within that midfield. Denny Bowanga, Kai Kamara getting the start as the center forward, and Kike Oliveira, who is not or no longer, fingers crossed, on his way to Mexico, rounding out the starting lineup. The players that would come off of the Pine Pony that would really have a significant impact in this match. We would have Ryan Hollingshead, and we would have Matty Bogusz, and we would also have, and if I'm not mistaken, Ilie Sanchez. Matty Bogusz clearly being the most important player coming off the Pine Pony, because one would argue the minute that Matty came into the game, that's when this entire situation opened up for LAFC. Steve Cherundolo starting a different lineup. For those of you wondering why Olivier Giroud would not play in the game, well, the answer is just simple. Do you really want to have a player of Olivier's caliber playing on synthetic turf at his tender young age of way younger than Scarf and I? I would say no. Synthetic turf is not the kind of terrain that you would want any player to play on. And as we would see over the course of a significant period of time within this game, synthetic turf is just not a fun terrain to compete on. Scarf, I believe you hit mute yet again.
You have to remember, he came up and picked up a small knock towards the end of last match. Same thing with Eduardo Atuesta. He picked up a small knock. We knew Murillo, who had picked up that weird knee injury when he collided with a player last match. So we knew those three would be out because of injury. But what was really fun to see is how our guys stepped up in a big way. And I think Philly, and we'll get to this later on, it's that combination of Matty Bogusz and now Lewis O'Brien. That's a lot of speed into the midfield, and Matty playing kind of that sweeper role, both as striker and in the midfield. It's been a lot of fun. It took 2 minutes to remind me on how much I don't like Paul Rothrock. He committed the first foul of the match, and I just don't like that guy. And then just 1 minute later, Kike was doing Kike things by earning us a corner 1v3. We did not get good service from Denis Bowanga early in the match, but as the match wore on, we certainly got good service, that's for sure. But to be honest, the best real moment for any club, I know Kike had a shot in the 13th minute, but it was a very good counter by Seattle Sounders in the 20th minute. Nuhu to Roldan to Rothrock to Morris. But, that turf, the thing about playing on bad turf, Philly, is that both clubs have to play on it. And we certainly saw the Seattle Sounders affected just as much, if not more than we were, by playing on that bad turf. And Jordan Morris missing wide 20 minutes in, it looked like one of those, it looked like several of the boxing matches that BMO Stadium hosted not too long ago, where you were kind of wading through the first couple of rounds, hoping for someone to throw a real punch, but really nothing in the first 20 minutes.
I mean, really nothing within the first 45 minutes. If you really want to break it down, Scarf, I mean, we would have to fast forward to the 40th minute where we had the first real strike. It wasn't a save that was made as a result of Tacoma Defiance keeper Thomas. It was a save made by Jackson Reagan. It was Kai Kamara off of a set piece that really had the first good strike in the game. And I have to tell Thomas, because I know he's a big listener of the Defenders of the Bank pod, you owe Jackson Reagan a Ranye, because he absolutely saved your ass, my friend. Because had he not been in the situation where he was, we are going into the locker room with LAFC up 1-0. It really wasn't, Scarf, an exciting game. You can tell that LAFC had a period of time where they needed to adjust to playing on turf. And you'd see it in the likes of Sergei Palencia letting a ball come towards him that came out of play. You would see that from Eddie Segura trying to kick a ball out of the defensive third of the pitch, only getting intercepted. I am utterly surprised that with the way that we saw the first 45 minutes, that LAFC had the type of passing accuracy that they did. Out of the 268 passes that they had, Scarf, they had 85% passing accuracy. 130 passes is what the Seattle Sounders had at 71%. And this is a team that is normally accustomed to playing on this type of terrain. Despite the fact that LAFC, I don't think, had a great first half, Seattle had a far worse first half.
Like I said, bad turf. Both teams have to play on it. The only thing that worried me going into the second half, to be perfectly honest, is Aaron Long picking up that late yellow card in the first half. I didn't quite love that because we had no depth on the back line. Now we've got a defender having to play 45 minutes potentially on a yellow. And Philly and I had the exact same amount of shots on target as Seattle Sounders did in that first half. So Philly has had a few more shots tonight than Seattle had shots on target. That's for sure.
Labor Day weekend, baby.
As we get into the second half, I did learn something, and I very well could have looked this up, but it came and hit me in the face, so that was fine. I didn't have to look it up. 47th minute, they're talking about the set piece by Denis Bouanga, who finally got a little bit more air under it. By the way, second half set pieces by Denis Bouanga were great. Wonderful job by Denis in the second half. I kind of called him out last podcast for having a couple of set pieces that were pretty awful once Matty Bogusz came out of the game. But Denis Bouanga really did a wonderful job on set pieces in this. But I learned something. In the U.S. Open Cup, it's still a traditional 18 available for selection on game day. Only 7 subs allowed on the roster for a U.S. Open Cup match. MLS has now changed that to 20. You can have your 11 and 9 subs allowed, like 9 possible substitution players. And then there are 12 allowed in Leagues Cup. I didn't know that. 7 in U.S. Open Cup, 9 in MLS, 12 in Leagues Cup. And Philly, it took them until 55 minutes to get a shot on target for Seattle.
I'm seeing Isis's comment in the chat. Big shout out to Isis. I'm going to be bringing our graphic designer, Dexter, over to her at 10 a.m. tomorrow. It is going to be glorious. Scarf, you said the 56th minute, 55th minute. Yes, the first shot on target for Seattle. It's Christian Roldan from distance, but can we really call it a shot? It was an absolute easy save. LAFC got caught overloaded on the wrong side, but it wasn't really a threatening shot. Still an attempt, but nothing that I would consider devastating or even threatening as far as Seattle's offense was concerned.
So, Philly, we can agree Hugo Lloris has played in some big matches in his career, yeah?
I mean, the guy's been able to hoist a World Cup trophy, which quite honestly, there aren't very many people that can lay claim to that. More of them being European, obviously some Argentinians as well. But yes, Hugo Lloris, despite being a Tottenham Hotspur for a good portion of his career, he's had some success internationally. That's for sure.
He's played in some big matches. I almost keeled over with laughter in the 56th minute when the U.S. Open Cup broadcaster, I don't remember his name. It wasn't Lori Lindsay. It was the guy doing play-by-play said, wow, you know, Hugo's got to really focus right now so he doesn't get rattled by that 50-person mob right behind him in the goal. The trees were more intimidating than the people back there, but we're talking about a guy who played in front of tens and tens and tens of thousands of people in the World Cup, in back-to-back World Cups. Yeah, Chris Whittingham, thank you. Dude was terrible. You think Hugo Lloris is going to be intimidated by 55 dudes wearing Xbox on their shirt? I don't know, man. Zulili is just not that intimidating to me.
I'm going to say this, and I don't think I'm outstretching. I am a far better broadcaster than Chris Whittingham is. I am. I've called over 100. I've called hundreds of games professionally on ESPN Plus, beIN Sports, CBS Sports Golazo Network, YouTube, Twitch, you name it. I am a far better broadcaster than what Chris Whittingham brought to that game. And no, by no stretch of the imagination do I think Hugo Lloris was intimidated by anything that took place on that pitch in a practice scenario. It kind of blows my mind, Scarf, when people ask some of these players coming into Major League Soccer how they feel about the atmosphere in Major League Soccer. I would go back to like thinking like how people would react to like talking to Zlatan Ibrahimovic. What do you think about the scenario? What do you think about the atmosphere at El Tráfico? The guy played at some of the biggest clubs in the world. I'm sorry to say, Major League Soccer pales into comparison to what guys like Hugo Lloris have seen in their entire career. Why would you create such a stupid narrative? It really is a dumb, dumb thing. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Philly is absolutely throwing heat at anybody and anybody
Scarf,
involved.
I'm confident. I am absolutely confident in what I do. And while I might be throwing heat, this might be my way of creating a soundbite that would create some kind of curiosity to think, let me give this crazy platinum-haired tip nitwit a shot. I will own anybody on CBS Sports Golazo Network in terms of calling a soccer game professionally in an exciting manner. No dry English humor. I will own all of you, and I am firmly confident in what I say.
All right. Philly, you mentioned it. Excuse me. We had Matty Bogusz coming into the match in the 68th minute for Kike Oliveira and Ilya coming on for Timothy Tillman. That's when things started to change just a little bit. In the 75th minute, Pedro de la Vega comes on for my least favorite player, Paul Rothrock. And then Raul Ruiz-Diaz coming on for Joao Paulo. And I liked what Brian Schmetzer
I will not calm down, Alco Hearn. I will not. This is my show. You calm down.
Oh, my goodness. Philly, take a deep breath.
I'm calm.
80th minute. We call that the Philly minute. And in the Philly minute, LAFC earns a corner in a bit of a dangerous spot that it was put in there. Nicely done. Shouts for handball, but I didn't see a whole lot that was going on. Surely enough, somehow they were checking something on the old ear hole there for our referee, who honestly was terrible for both sides. And in what the referee saw, Philly, and you and I can disagree on this, I thought, at least from the angles that we saw, even though that arm was kind of outstretched a little, one of the things that they do say is it has to be outside of the natural silhouette of the human body. Not sure that it was outside the natural silhouette. Definitely not sure that there was any intent to knock it down with the hand, although intent has been written out of the rule from what I understand. Was it in a natural position? Maybe not, but I'll say this. It was a soft handball call. Even if it was letter of the law, a handball, it's just one of those that you can just hear all of the legends of the game kind of turning over in their graves when something like this was called a handball. I don't know, Philly, but what I do know is that when good old 99 lines up, Philly, he is now 9 for 9 from the spot on the season. And look, soft goals still count as goals, right, Philly?
I mean, look, Denny Bowanga lines up 12 yards, 11 meters, whatever unit of measure you like to utilize. I am obviously giving a nod to the people outside of the United States. He is practically automatic. Denny Bowanga, unlike somebody we've all been clamoring to have come back on the LAFC roster, Carlos Vela. Carlos Vela used to leave us in question marks. Denny Bowanga, to me, is automatic. He converted. He did what he needed to do, and he absolutely did his job. You look at the replays, and while Seattle Sounders supporters might think they got robbed, I think no. You got exactly what you needed. That stab to the heart for supporting that team in the Pacific Northwest that you support. LAFC, in its short tenure, is far better than anything that has ever come out of the state of Washington. We deserve that penalty kick. Denny Bowanga scored it, and as a result of that, we have now beaten the Seattle Sounders 4 times this season and have owned them this past year. It is not the estate of Paul Allen that owns the Seattle Sounders. It is LAFC. And for those who don't like this, I don't give a hoot. LAFC owns the Sounders. You could go back to 2019 and say, "Oh yeah, we beat y'all in the conference finals." It does. I don't care. We are recent champions, and we're going to go on to win the U.S. Open Cup. We're going to go on to win the Western Conference, and we're going to go on and win the MLS Cup. So you know what, Seattle, suck it.
I've never been happier that Philly used the word hoot before in my life. I think my favorite moment, even more so than Denis Bouanga's penalty kick in the scarf minute in the 83rd minute. And by the way, shout out to Georgie Manungu, who would come on in the 85th minute for his first ever first team contract minutes. 89th minute, Philly, I got to take back what I said. I think Ugo may have been a little intimidated.
Yes.
Because I have no idea where that train came from. But that whistle came out of nowhere. I know you guys couldn't hear it at Golden Road. But in the 89th minute, this train whistle, just loud as heck, comes out of nowhere. And my first thought was that, hey, they're not allowed to bring sound effects like that into the stadium. And then through those giant trees in the back, you see the train just going. We're talking 25 yards behind Hugo Lloris. There's just the train coming down the track, man. It was going. It reminded me of nothing I've ever seen before because the train was right there. It is unbelievable that we were playing in someone's backyard in a forest and they would build train tracks that close. That was probably one of the funniest things I've seen. And this, look, for all the people that are US Open Cup haters out there, all they have to do is point to this match being played in someone's backyard next to a train track through the forest, over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we went to play this match in Tukwila. I get it, right? I get it. Philly, you're right. Nothing's going to displace a Metallica concert, but there wasn't anywhere else that we could have played besides 4,500 train station Tukwila. Oh my goodness. But yeah, Philly, look, let's be real. We got lucky. We got lucky-ish. I mean, look, it was good defending, but we got lucky-ish in that second minute. If not for, you mentioned him before, Chris Lafferty's favorite player, Maxime Chanot, coming back in onside and keeping Jordan Morris offside, Aaron Long's feet only being a size 10 or whatever, and maybe Jordan Morris is being a little bit bigger, whatever it is. We got lucky in that second minute. It was a bad turnover by our midfield. They turned it around on us super quick, Philly, but offside was the call. That's your ball game.
I threw my cap at Golden Road Brewery when Jordan Morris had the shot that hit the netting. I was really pissed off. And I don't understand how there was 7 minutes worth of stoppage time. I really don't. If somebody can explain to me in the most intelligent of manners why there was 7 minutes worth of stoppage time, I would really like to consider and hear that. I saw 7 minutes and all I thought was Scheisse. That's German for the word, well, whatever. When Morris hit that, instantly, he waved his finger no, which obviously led me to believe that it was an offside call. If the official didn't hesitate to raise his flag in that scenario, we got lucky. We did get lucky because we didn't play in an environment that was necessarily conducive of a top-tier matchup in the United States. We weren't playing the Tacoma Defiance. We were playing the Seattle Sounders, and we were playing them basically on like a high school training ground. Kind of embarrassing for people that would just tune into Major League Soccer for the first time and go, this is the top flight of professional soccer in the United States. This is kind of pathetic. And I would agree with you because the turf was rough. The game itself was kind of rough. And one would and people could easily argue that we got lucky to win this game. And people could say that, but preparation meaning opportunity is what a lot of intelligent people will consider as luck. We were destined to win this game. We absolutely were. We have gone and competed in so many ways and fought so many times, made so many finals in such a short period of time. We deserve to be in the position that we're in. The next game will dictate how fortunate we really are. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
No, look, you're absolutely right. That being said, folks, LAFC for the first time gets out of the U.S. Open Cup semifinals into the U.S. Open Cup final, which will be at BMO Wednesday, September 25th. If you're a season ticket holder, your match tickets are automatically rolled over. They'll just charge you for it. They just sent an email out about it a couple of days ago. So you don't have to opt in. You actually have to opt out of your tickets if you are a season ticket holder. They're charging the tickets, I think, September 3rd, or that's the last opt-out day, something like that. So all of you listening out there, if you want to opt out for the final, first, what's wrong with you? Go to the final. It's a Wednesday. Come on. It'll be fun. But second of all, you do have to opt out, not opt in for tickets if you are a season ticket holder. So yeah, the ticket price, it was about 60%, I think, Philly, of what we pay, maybe 70% of what we pay for regular price tickets. So hopefully everything will be good when it comes to that. We'll get our amenities up in Founders, and everybody else will be able to get in for a good price. That match, September 25th, Wednesday, at BMO versus Sporting Kansas City. Philly, you ready to talk some Houston Dynamo for the next few weeks? Woo!
I mean, at the very least, I'm ready to talk Houston Dynamo for the next couple of days.
Well, look, we got them on August 31st, and then we go to them on September 7th. We got back-to-back matches against the Human Highlighters of Houston, my friend. Get ready.
Yeah, look, we're going to compete against them on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. And the Dynamo are looking to make a push to the playoffs. They're obviously in 8th place. They got a record of 10-8-7. A team, by the way, that's much better on the road than they are at home, 6-5-2 away, whereas they are 4-3-5 home. But we will be welcoming back club favorite Latif Blessing, and Latif has had a breakout season for the Houston Dynamo. Currently, their second leading scorer with 5 goals. And so it'll be an interesting scenario to be had. Now we could actually get down to business. And for those that are saying we need to save the season, pay attention. I've been spicy this entire podcast. I know I have been. And I don't mean that in a very condescending, negative way. But I do applaud intelligence, and I absolutely shun ignorance. And there is a lot of ignorance out there in terms of sports fandom. For people to say we need to do X and Y to save the season, I think it's the dumbest crap I've ever heard, because we're 14-5-5. Now the MLS regular season starts. If we get our butts whooped by the Houston Dynamo, then we have a conversation to be had about things within the regular season. But it's been so long since we've had a regular season game that a lot of you have forgotten that a lot of what we have played for doesn't necessarily count against our actual record. And while it sucks that we lost against the Columbus Crew, and believe you me, it pains me in the heart. Scarv and I have been supporters of this club since it was a hole in the ground, and we've had hard hats before BMO. It was Bank of America before it was anything. I feel your pain, but at the same time, Leagues Cup is what it is. We've earned our berth in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, so we've succeeded there. We have an opportunity September 25th to win against Sporting Kansas City and hoist another trophy. And we're going to be competing throughout the course of the regular season for another trophy, the one that actually matters. So let's pay attention to the eyes on the actual prize, which is winning this league, which we are very much involved in.
Yeah, Bank of California Stadium. I still miss it for sure. That being said, we know who our next 2 matches are against. It's against Houston. After we're done with that, we got a derby down in Carson on September 14th. So make sure y'all are ready for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. But either way, we've got an Open Cup final in late September. We got plenty of work to do until then. Several matches for MLS Cup. We have 3 matches in hand on Carson, who are 5 points ahead of us in the standings. I like those odds a lot, Philly, and I like our odds against Sporting Kansas City. What do you think? I think maybe leading into this match against Sporting, maybe we do one of those getting to know you episodes just because it's a final. I don't know. You and I can talk about it, but I'll let you finish your, is that Kirkland tequila that you got there, bud?
There's nothing to finish. I finished it about 20 minutes ago.
Shocking. All right.
Here's the deal. Look, all I'm going to say is I love this club and I want to succeed more than anything else. But like, I also want to address the fact that like expectations need to be kept in check. When somebody goes out there and says, how hard is it to win a trophy in professional sports? I mean, arguably, it's the actual hardest thing to do in this profession. How hard is it to be number one in whatever profession that y'all are involved in? LAFC has given us a lot to be appreciative of and thankful for. Since 2018, look at what we've done. We've done an awful lot. You take expansion franchises into consideration. Think Atlanta United. Atlanta United very much was a successful team within its inauguration. But what have they done since the first 2 years of their inception? Not a damn thing. Look at what we've done over the course of our entire existence. We've made things interesting, competitive, and exciting to be a part of. And yes, being in as many finals as we have been, to come up empty-handed sucks. And I am not making any excuses for any of that. I will tell you that second place is the first loser. But at the same time, it is better to be in this situation than to not be. Do you not want to be in the playoffs? Do you not want to be competitive? Do you not want to have something to talk about later on in a season or in a Cups tournament scenario? We have a damn good club to support, Defenders. We are spoiled in a lot of ways. We are very fortunate to have wrapped our hearts, minds, and arms around a club like LAFC. And while maybe you feel like they've broken our hearts as of late, and I will agree with you, we still are competitive, and we will continue to be competitive because I believe in what our club does, and it's not because we are getting paid as corporate shills. There's no propaganda positivity money that is coming into the coffers of Defenders of the Bank. Scarf and I still have day jobs, so you know for a fact that we're not getting paid buku bucks. But be appreciative of the fact that you root for a club that gives a damn, that thinks forward, that is successful, and that continues to succeed. And I will leave it at that. I am so proud to be a supporter of LAFC. This is the club that I care for above any other professional sporting franchise, be it the New York Mets, be it the Knicks, the Jets, hell, even the Indiana Hoosiers, where I went to college. This is my club. This is your club. Be proud because we are winners all across the board.
The only thing I have to say is, Alco, maybe you can try again on our next episode, but you just got booted, bud. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, everybody. This has been the Spicy Philly episode brought to you by Defenders of the Bank, episode 323. For all of you out in the 323, we love you very much. And you know how we like to end each and every one of our episodes. Bye-bye.